Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Gina.
And I'm Evo.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
And Evo is drinking again, and I'm not. That's fine. I'm actually not sad about it.
You sound a little bummed about it for a second there.
No, it's just because our show is drinks with a splash of controversy. So
It
right
is.
now, we're only half of that shit right now.
It's all right, though, because, you do this regularly. And so this is just part of your journey, and I respect that.
Yeah, thank you. So
You're very welcome.
let's cheers my agua and your drink that I made. And it's a variation of a gimlet.
Yes.
Because gimlet is with gin, and this is vodka and lime juice.
It is vodka with lime juice.
Drink water,
Yeah.
they say.
You have the bootleg aguardiente.
I've actually never had that before.
You've never had it before?
No.
It is. It's really good. I like it because it creeps up on you. It's you don't expect it. It's not as. I don't feel like it's as harsh tasting as hard as it hits you. It's like one of those things. Like, when you drink some really hard alcohol, you're gonna get fucked up. But this is kind of. It's for me. It's kind of smooth.
It's a creeper.
It's a creeper. But yeah, this shit will fuck you up.
Okay, so tonight we are talking about Dad Bods versus Mom Bods. But before we get into our topic for tonight, because I'm ready to talk about this shit, I want everybody who is either watching us, listening to us, please press any button. Any button that you favor that can help continue support us. So if you want to subscribe, if you want to like, if you want to share, if you want to follow, whatever, because there's so many different terms depending on the platform that you are consuming us on. So we would greatly appreciate it if you could do one of those things. Sharing is probably one of the best because it gives us more exposure, and maybe you could show some of your friends a show that you enjoy listening to or watching. We'd greatly appreciate it. Oh, excuse me. So with that being said, let's get into the show. And I don't know if you noticed, because we're talking about Dad Bods versus Mom Bods. I wore my mom jeans.
You know what? I did not notice because you look good in any pair of jeans.
Oh, of course. Evo, he's suave as shit. And
that was an alley-oop. I had to slam dunk that. I'm sorry.
I can't tell you how many times Evo will say something on the show, and then I'm like, oh man, if I clip this and put it out into the ether, the ladies gonna love him.
Gotta give props to the moms. That's where the respect is due.
So let's get into this topic. And I thought how fitting it is rather for Evo and I to talk about this, because I'm a mom, you're a dad.
And I'm a dad.
And I would say that we at one point in our lives definitely were the epitome of a mom and a dad bod.
Yeah, I can definitely say I fell into that mold of what is called or described as a dad bod.
So let me actually give you the description, and I'm going to give you the definition of what a dad bod is based on Urban Dictionary. And people don't come from me and be like, oh my God, she used Urban Dictionary. The reason why I am using Urban Dictionary is because this is a term that is fairly new. Mm-hmm. It's not even a decade old.
Right.
And it's kind of like slang. It's not really something that is found in Webster's Dictionary type shit. So a dad bod, the type of physique a man earns when the increasing pressures of work life, married life, especially fatherhood, no longer allow him the time or drive to maintain a hard, toned figure. As a result, what once was a sculpted, chiseled frame digresses into a soft, flabby, heaping pile of I don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah, let me tell you something. It's hard. It's a hard life to get a dad bod. It takes a lot of work. You know what I mean? Like,
what?
Yo, that's a hard life. I just wanted to point that out there. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
I'm sitting there listening to this definition, and I'm like, really, a earned body? Like they earn that shit?
Honestly, Evo, when
I know. I could just see your blood was starting to boil.
I wasn't picking up on the sarcasm. I was like, what the fuck is he
you know
talking
what?
about?
It's just the way you were like, it's earned, and I'm like, listening. I'm listening.
I
to
didn't
you talk.
say that.
Yeah, it's like what you were saying though, and I'm listening to you talk, and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe that this is like even a definition in this sense.
Yeah, it is. So let me give you the definition of a mom bod, also from Urban Dictionary. So the definition reads, a woman who has had at least one kid and that a child has affected her body in such a way that it changes her physical appearance to the point where she no longer looks like herself, including stretch marks on the hips, thighs, and boobs, rounded face, double chin, cellulite ass, saggy boobs from nursing and pumping, and a rounded or saggy belly.
That's a lot of detail. What was all the detail in the male's version of the definition?
Well, you know, he earned it.
He earned shit. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm going to tell you what I find the most hysterical about this dad bod shit.
Wow.
You don't even have to be a father to receive that definition.
Yeah, you don't got to be a dad to have a dad bod.
And that honestly blows my shit. So you're telling me the definition is something that for a man is earned, but men can get it even if they're not a father.
Yes, we get the passcode and collect $200. Don't forget that.
So when I was looking up the definitions of mom bod versus dad bod, because I just kind of wanted to familiarize myself exactly what people are thinking when they think of these terms, I came across this article, and the article had a video of a girl on TikTok that basically her video went viral. And she was talking about the disparity between men and women when it comes to this mom dad
like
versus
a double standard.
Yeah, this double standard.
Yeah.
And her name is she's at building_her_legacy. She posted this video on TikTok back in August. I'm going to tell you what I found super interesting. So the definitions that I read you from Urban Dictionary, she also used these definitions in her video so that people could understand the definition of mom versus dad bod. I then went to go look what the definition was, couldn't find the same definition. Urban Dictionary, and she also sources Wikipedia. They both went ahead and edited the definitions of what a dad bod is and a mom bod. They took away the verbiage of earned. They took away some of the verbiage from the mom bod that made it seem like it was something that was less desirable. So when you go in there and you read it now and you read the definition of like a mom bod, it basically says something like, you know, a woman who's had a child, but she's still hot in her own right.
Can we get a round of applause for this young lady right here, over here, making impacts, sending waves to Webster's Dictionary.
No, not Webster's,
Urban's Dictionary, sorry, and getting them to go back and
Wikipedia.
And go back and retrace what it is that they wrote and correct it.
Rewrite,
retrace. They retrace their steps. All I know is that one person had that big of an impact, and I love it.
I do applaud her for having an impact. However, I find it so interesting that both Wikipedia and Urban Dictionary went ahead, and those were the definitions that they chose to put out in regards to a mom and a dad bod. Was there nobody in that office, because it's obviously coming from some sort of corporation, that said, hey, that sounds a little...
It doesn't sound like any moms or dads read that before it got published.
Well,
and if they did, they just bit their tongues.
When it comes to a mom or a dad, potentially looking at that definition before it was published and looking at it like, that's not right.
I don't see the dads having any problems with that definition, because they earned that shit.
They earned
it. They earned that shit. But man, how there wasn't one woman in that room somewhere that put eyes on that and didn't feel some type of way about it. I'm a little puzzled by that.
So what's actually interesting about that is women, unfortunately, tend to be a big part of the problem when it comes to the way that the mom bod is perceived by other women and by men. So we'll get into that. Let's get into that a little bit. Because I was sad. I was sad to know this. But at the same time, when I found out why women are part of the problem, I now have a better understanding of where it comes from. So
Okay.
some of the reasons why a dad bod is accepted more than a mom bod. So women will tend to accept a man with a dad bod. They think that he is potentially a family man, he's a nurturer, and that he's putting his family before himself. The dad bod becomes a symbol of attractiveness to women, suggesting that he could be a good husband and or father.
So, what? Wait, what? Okay, fine.
Wait, so
Okay.
wait, hold on.
Oh.
So let me also tell you a little bit about why women accept this from men that potentially don't even have children. Okay, so men without children can be seen as he has other pursuits outside of the gym, and he's potentially not going to stand you up for dinner because he has to go, work out or something like that. So he's more focused on living life a little bit more free.
Okay.
So women are a little bit more accepting of that.
Okay. So right. Fine. Let's go with that. Right. Let's give that some credibility. Let's say that is actually true.
Okay.
So why is it in the same sense a woman can be looked as a nurturer, as a sacrificer, as having the choice to abort every child that goes in her body and chooses not to, and puts the child first and foremost in front of everything, and then goes through this physical change and either has the child cut out of her or pushes a whole human out of her? Why is that's not looked at as the woman is not looked at in that light where she has a mom bod and it's like, man, like she sacrificed, she put her children first, like,
Yeah.
what am I missing?
So you're asking me, why is it that women's bodies after having children, because the only way you can get a mom bod is by actually having children.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were saying that a dad bod, the reason why this is accepted is because a dad bod was looked at as someone who was a
potential nurturer,
a family man.
Yeah.
Why is it? I mean, and he didn't have to do nothing really. Oh, I'm sorry. He has some struggles. He has some stress.
Yeah, he had stress.
He had a lot of stress, and he had to go through a lot of whatever the hell he was going through. It's obvious that a woman goes through physical and emotional and hormonal changes that are like beyond whatever a man could know, and that's just clear as day. Anyone with like half of a brain knows that, or should know that about a woman. So why is it that I'm confused? Why like that the men are perceived this way and women are not automatically perceived this way?
So it has a lot to do with what I'm gonna get into, because when I read this, I felt the same exact way. I was like, wow, men are looked at like they're nurturing and that they're a father, and all these beautiful things.
I'm about to go back to the dad bod.
That please don't. He's putting his family before himself, and women will look at a man and say, I potentially would want to be with someone like that. In addition, women are more accepting of a man that has a dad bod versus a more muscular body type. The men seem to look a little bit more approachable. Women can associate a man who's very fit and very into his appearance as a man that is maybe a little bit less approachable, based on the fact that he's very into himself. So when a guy is not super fit, a woman will look at it and say, oh, maybe he's a little bit more fun. Maybe he's a little bit more laid back. Maybe he's not as rigid. And I can identify with this because when I worked for a makeup company for a long time, when I was really done up, when I was in attire that was very, I guess the best way I can explain it was I wore clothing that gave me like a very strong presence. And my makeup sometimes was, I guess, what some people would consider extreme. I almost never got approached by men. If anything, men would kind of look at me weird. But what I would notice is when I would dress down or I would wear minimal makeup or sometimes almost no makeup, I would get approached a lot. I remember one time being in Target and a guy, and I was just there just doing my regular shopping, my mom shopping, and a guy literally came up to me and was like, I just want to take it. So I guess it can go both ways. A man could look at a woman that is not, I guess, as what they would consider rigid or done up and see her as more approachable. Now, men and women see women with a mom bod, they think that she's lazy and that she still hasn't lost the baby weight. I'm going to explain to you why a woman's body, when it's in regard to her looking like a mother and post-children, postpartum bodies, it has a lot to do with the images that are targeted towards other women in media. There is what is considered what the ideal woman should look like. So what tends to happen is when women are consuming this type of content, whether it be on TV, movies, in music videos, and they see this particular type of physique and body that is considered ideal, what will then happen is when a woman then goes on to social media or TV and they have, or in just regular society, and their body is very normal, other women will critique other women based on the idealistic view of what a woman should look like. And I'm saying that in parentheses. So that's why that type of body, when it comes to it being like a mom body, is not looked at as something that should be revered.
Well, wasn't it also like a social norm because men were the providers at one point and women were the stay-at-home moms, that it was the woman's duty to keep her appearance up even after having a baby, not only to please her man with her appearance, but also to represent their family out in public as, her keeping up her part, which was to maintain the home and herself, regardless of what her body had gone through from who knows how many kids. Like that was the social norm at one point. And that was like a social pressure for women.
Yeah. So when I think about this type of acceptance for these two different types of bodies, when I read it, I said to myself, this is still very primal.
Yeah, for sure.
And what I mean by that is women are looking at men in still a very primal way. They're looking at a man that has a dad bod and saying, oh, he may be a good father. He may be a good nurturer. He may be able to, he's putting himself first. They're looking at it in a very primal way. Whereas men, when they look at women with mom bods, they're looking at them as they lack attractiveness. So it's still very primal. I can't tell you how many times we've had conversations about the what am I trying to say? Like the differences between men and women and why men see things one way and why women see things a certain way. And I feel like it fucking always goes back to this. It always goes back to like this very primal view of how men see women and women see men.
Wouldn't that be considered the difference between the male and the female gaze?
I honestly, I can't speak to that. Like when a woman looks at a man, she's typically looking at more than just his physical appearance. Yeah.
And when a man looks at a woman, he's typically looking at mostly her physical appearance.
Yes, and that comes from primal instincts.
Yeah. So, when you take that and you dump a bunch of stupidity onto it,
Because
it gets really fucked up.
I'm gonna tell you what I like. What fucking blows my mind about this, Evo, is that because it's still so primal. Like, if you take away all the fluff, women are looking at men as nurturers, and men are looking at women as basically, I want to fuck you, right?
Yeah, I mean they're looking. Yes, yes,
Right?
basically yes. And what's funny is that it was verified one time when I was watching people take a poll on a campus, and they were asking various women, do they have male best friends? And the women were like, yeah, I have quite a few. And they were like, do you think that, you know, he would ever sleep with you given the chance? Or would you ever sleep with him? And she'd be like, no. And would he sleep with you given the chance? And they were like, yeah. And then they asked a bunch of men, do you have girl best friends? And they were like, yeah. And they were like, would she sleep with you? Like, probably not. But if she lets you, would you? Yeah. You know, because all those women were seeing these men as more than just a man. They were seeing them as people, as friends. Meanwhile, the men were like accepting the friendship, but primarily looking at them, you know, with a physical attraction. And regardless of, you know, how strong the friendship was, there was still always the way that male gaze, where they looked at the women's physical appearance primarily.
I feel frustrated as a woman to know that we are part of the problem, and that we are basically, we're throwing stones at a glass house. Because for the most part, any woman is going to become a mother. And even if she doesn't become a mother, she's going to, at some point in her life, go through bodily changes. So the fact that we are holding other women up to this standard of what she should look like based on what society is feeding us, I just feel like I'm in a fucking Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I honestly feel like that women should be praised and acknowledged for their commitment to putting themselves through something that their counterparts could never do, which is have a child. I've always told you, I've have very strong feelings about this. I always have, and I always will. That I've always felt that at least that every woman that has a child who then goes through the process of their breast significantly changing from what it was to what it is after having a child should be entitled to some type of breast augmentation. And I mean this in the most respectful way, because I know that it's a very important part of a woman's life. You know, the development of her breasts and how that relates to their femininity. And that's lost, or a portion of it is lost after having a child. So a portion of that woman is lost. I mean, that's a huge sacrifice. I don't know a man that loses part of his manhood because he had a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, at least not that I'm aware of. So just in that aspect alone, I feel like that every woman should be entitled to something, to, if it's their decision, to give them back something that they lost because of what they've sacrificed.
Yeah.
You know, and I just feel like that those actions and that type of attitude, men should try to replicate more often. And I think that if you kind of like pass that on, kind of, what is it? Oh, pass it forward. You know, if man would just pass it forward over time, that
when you say replicate, what is it that you want men to replicate?
Just to be able to look at women in a light, in the sense that when I look at a woman and I can tell that she's had kids, there's a bit of like an endearment that comes out of me. You know, a bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Like you just kind of just look at something and you're just like, you know, you're like awed by it, you know, because it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful experience. The bonding, everything that happens with having a child that a woman gets to go through that a man doesn't, I find amazing and fascinating and very special. And I'm almost envious of it because, you know, I'm very in tune with my feelings and things like that. And I can't even imagine or begin to imagine what it's like to grow a bond with something, another human growing inside of you, and then birth that human. You know, like I know how I feel about our daughter and our children. I can't imagine what you feel, what your bond is like from having those kids.
Yeah.
You know?
And then for her body that grew those human beings, for people to look at it in disgust.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to have resentment towards someone that has affected you negatively. So the love that exists within a mother to still love her children even after they've physically put her through something and not have that resentment. I mean, there are mothers who do have the resentment, but the ones that don't, especially, right? And not to take away from the ones that do, because that's just another complicated thing, you know. That's an emotional complication that people go through based on, you know, what their lives are and how they've grown up. But the ones that do handle it in a way where they oversee it, they oversee what the pregnancy and it has done to them, and still love and still sacrifice and still.
Do you mean they overlook it?
Yes, that's what I meant to say. Thank you. Yeah, they overlook that, you know, and put that aside.
Right.
And put everything into raising the children with love and care. And I mean, I that's an emotion that I can't even fathom.
It is definitely, as a mom, after you've given birth to your first child, it is shocking what your body goes through.
And then they do it again.
Yeah.
And they do it again. Like, what?
And what I mean by it's shocking is not only are you for the first time viewing your body post childbirth, you are now having to care for a little person. So you're trying to simultaneously absorb what has just happened to you.
Right.
I'll never forget when I had my first child, just sitting in the bathroom in the hospital, just looking at myself with a sense of what the fuck.
You know, there's a whole nother part of it that I never even began to imagine what the thought of it might be like.
Yeah. And you know, after you have a baby, the nurses, they'll come in and they're just so, you know, they work in the maternity ward. They're very, it's business as usual.
Yeah. It's a normal day at work for them.
You know, they come in and they're just like, hey, so you want to take a shower? You want to do, and I just remember looking at these nurses like they had 3 fucking heads. Because there were moments after having children, I literally felt like I was an alien. And the thought of getting up to do just normal things like shower, use the bathroom, get dressed, felt like I had to climb a mountain to do it.
Listen.
And you go through this level of exposure that you've probably never gone through in your entire life. I grew up in a household where all boys for the most part. So the freedom of my body was really like controlled in a sense where I was constantly told to have proper clothes on, you know, not to, you know, show certain parts of my body, to always cross my legs, you know, those type of things. So I grew up very conscious of my body in the sense of, I can even think back to when I ran track in high school where I would have to get changed in the locker room with other girls. And I was one of those girls where I like went into the bathroom and I changed in private. So when you have a baby, all that shit goes right out the fucking window. You're fucking vajayjays out there. Everybody's looking at it. This doctor, this nurse, this attendant. It is such an experience. So for a mom bod to be looked at something that is almost is disgusting, makes me so it really grinds my gears.
It should, you know, and you know, and just listening to the experience that you're describing, you know, I'm just wondering like they should have an award for that. Like they really should. I mean, it's just it's like
well, the award is the child.
I understand, but I mean, there should be you know. That comes with the birth. I mean, I feel like there should be something else separate from, you know, just to award and praise the woman for her experience. And, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, why is it that men, and I don't know if women do this, but I know men do this. Why is it that they will fantasize or be attracted or find a woman who's pregnant attractive, right? Beautiful, you know, like she's bearing a child, something, she's glowing, all that, right? You've heard of this before. But then after she has the child, what? She's dog shit?
So you're asking me, why is it that men will fantasize sexually about a woman who's pregnant versus not fantasize or find her sexually appealing post birth?
Right. I mean, they go hand in hand.
They do, but there's a huge difference, I think, that takes part, that I think that you're missing. Why men
I am missing it because I don't really fantasize about pregnant women like that. But I guess what I'm
like that,
like in a way where men do, you know what I'm saying? And
no, but
you said
like that. You made it sound like that you have once upon a time.
No, I said like that in the way that I'm describing.
Do you want my answer? Do you want me to tell you why I think men fantasize about that?
I would love to hear it.
I think that men will look at a woman who's pregnant and know that he could do whatever he wants with her and not risk bearing any children because she's already pregnant.
See, I've never had any accidents, so like I don't really. That's not something I fantasize about.
Evo always likes to toot his fucking horn.
I'm just.
I didn't ask you.
I'm over here putting two and two together. I'm like, I just wonder why that's never been like a thing for me. Where I'm like, where I would think, oh wow, I could just, you know, shoot the club up with no problem. No, ain't nobody gonna take a bullet.
Yeah.
Damn, that's fucked up.
But listen, I don't know that to be fact, but I'm telling you, I think that's what it is.
It sounds legit now that you said it. You know, I'm imagining I'm imagining myself in my dog years. You know, like the one, you know, those years, and yeah, that kind of would make sense. You know,
that's sex with no strings.
See, anytime I ever see a pregnant woman, and for whatever reason I might admire the fact that she's pregnant, I admire the whole motherly, bearing a child, bonding, life creating portion of it. Like, to me, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, what the woman's body goes through hormonally, and like, you know, all of this burst of like vitamins and hair and skin glow and all, like those are the things that I notice when a woman's pregnant. And I think even after, post, you know, there's something beautiful about it, you know, that says everything that pre-pregnancy says about a woman. Either way, I don't know. I guess I just have
you have a very different view on the way you look at a woman who has had children. Damn. I'm not really sure where that came from, but when we talk about why men look at women who in disgust that have a mom bod, you and I were talking about this, about how men from very young are kind of taught to objectify women. So when a woman doesn't meet the standard of what they are taught to objectify, which is a woman that's sexy, you know, looks like the ideal woman, if they're being taught that in the home from when they're young, after their wives have, or their significant other has a child, and she steps outside of that ideal woman, his mindset is already going to be programmed to say, this is not what I want.
You know what? I think that has a lot to do with all of the women in my life that raised me, that I grew up around, were nothing but amazing to me, and in their own individual way. Like my mom, you know, all of my aunts, my grandma, you know, they were all beautiful people. Yeah. You know.
And I don't think you mean beautiful in the sense of their appearance.
No, I mean like they were all they had just the biggest hearts, and just so, you know, like I can't say that like I was a child where I had difficulty growing up around relatives. You know, even my uncles and stuff like that, they were all very, you know, very nice to me. And so, but the women in my life, they were all very loving and caring and, soft and, treated me like a loving family member,
You know what that reminds me of? It makes me think about when I see a lot of these misogynistic men all over social media talking this bullshit about, when a woman has children, she's less valuable, she's less desirable. Yeah. And a lot of times I'll go in the comments and I'll see people say things like, "Who hurt you?"
Yeah, so I was about to get that. Now thinking back at it, like they weren't bitter women. They didn't grow up, for whatever reason, their childhood growing up didn't turn them into bitter women, as to where, I felt that, as a young child growing up around them.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that the men that were being raised by the women in their households, that potentially that the man may have had a bad relationship with the women that were in his family.
Yeah.
So then in turn, he then goes out and attacks women.
Yeah.
And so, people will comment things like, "Who hurt you?"
Yeah, I mean, if you grew up around violence.
Well, it's not even necessarily, I don't even mean violence, Eva. I just mean trauma of some sort. It doesn't always have to be violence in that sense.
You're absolutely right.
Even though I know that there are many men that come from loving household with loving women, and then they go out there and they fucking bash women.
I wonder what that's about. How does that come about?
Well, that's the audacity in men, and you and I have spoken about this. Men for a very long time walk around with this bravado that they think that they have some sort of entitlement to say what they think women should look like, the way women should act. And I understand as to why men sometimes think that they should have a voice into the way women, I guess, conduct themselves, because men and women at some point get together.
Right.
If that is, your sexual preference, to be with a woman, to be with a man. So I understand why sometimes men think that they should have a voice in that. But there's a difference of making a suggestion and saying, "Hey, because I'm a man and I know the way that men function, I want to make this suggestion to you, to maybe for your safety, for your health, for your well-being." But no, a lot of the times the way that it's coming is, "Because I'm a man and I can provide you with something, I think you should do XYZ this way."
I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I mean, you also have to consider the fact that when boys are raised, they're not really raised to be in tune with their emotions and their feelings, how to process them.
That is very true.
And I think that the ones that do, those men aren't like that growing up. They're very aware of how they feel, and they're very aware of how those feelings come out of their mouths, how they express them. So I feel like that has a large part to do with it. And I feel like there's a large gap in when men are raising their children, or when boys are being raised by parents, whether it's a woman or a male, that they're lacking that portion of where they're taught to express themselves in ways that's in tune with their emotions and sensitive to the way that they're expressing them to other people.
Yeah, a lot of times boys are told to, like,
can't cry.
Yeah, can't cry. Shut up, man up.
Yeah, don't complain. Don't talk about your feelings. That's soft, and like, I think that's that's part of life. What's funny is that,
well, that's how bullies are born.
Yeah.
When you're basically being bullied at home, you're going to go out and bully other fucking people. It becomes like this game of power. Well, someone's holding something over me, so I'm going to go do that shit to someone else. Whereas little girls, a lot of the times, are told the complete opposite. They're told that they can cry, that they're told to embrace their feelings. They're given hugs, they're given kisses, those type of things. So I totally understand that. But on the flip side of that, girls are raised to be very conscious of their appearance.
Yeah.
That's a constant conversation about the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, the way you do your hair.
Absolutely.
I remember, I want to say when it really started to become a thing, I was like maybe in middle school, where boys would comment on my hair and they would say things to me like, I like it when you wear your hair straight. You look better with your hair straight. Or, you know, you look better when you wear a skirt. And I remember at one point in my life thinking, wow, if I want boys' attention, then maybe I should do these things that boys want me to do. Luckily, something happened, a switch clicked, and I was like, actually, fuck that noise. I ain't doing none of that shit. I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want. But can you see how many girls are raised to think constantly about their appearance? You and I have friends where we've had conversations that in their home, their mothers are talking to the little girls from very young to be weight conscious, to be appearance conscious, because if you don't, you're not gonna get a man.
Yeah, a man ain't gonna want you for if you look like XYZ. You have to fit into this mold.
Yeah, the ideal woman. And a lot of women got this shit in their head from what society is pumping out there.
Well, and again, that falls back to, you know, women growing up to find a man that is going to be able to provide for them. So the man's going to provide them with a home and financial stability. And what does the woman have to bring to the table? Themselves, their body, what they look like. You know, that's their portion of it. So I feel like that mold is still it's still in the process of being cracked.
Yeah, well, there's many women, including myself, that we trying to break that shit.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. The day I saw you, I'm talking about the day I saw you when you came to school with your hair curly versus straight. Because it was blonde. It was blonde.
Yeah,
it was blonde. It was still curly.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I went through a blonde phase.
She went through a blonde phase, and I remember when I first met you, I couldn't make out what your ethnicity was. Yeah,
I can be considered very ambiguous.
Yeah, and you were hardcore. I mean, you with blonde hair. But the day you came to school with your hair dyed black, oh man,
my natural hair color.
That's when the needle jumped off the record. I mean, it was like the missing link. All of a sudden, everything about you all of a sudden made sense to me.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's when the hook sunk in.
Oh my God, you're so funny.
Oh, so yeah, thankfully you broke out of that straightening the hair phase, and you know, you were being who you were, you know.
I mean, I definitely had a phase where I wore my hair straight a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you did even while we were together, which was, you know, fine.
Yeah, I love the fact that I have the ability to wear my hair straight, wear my hair curly. I love that I can, you know, have that diversity.
And so, but that's a bit different. That's somebody going through different style changes just to, you know, change, you know, because you're a person, you like change. You don't like the same thing over and over again, you know? And so I just feel like that's part of your personality, as to where someone may do that just trying to fit into a mold.
Correct, yeah.
You know, and there's a big difference between the two. And I think that should be understood.
At one point, I was definitely doing it to try to fit into somewhat of a mold. I was dipped my toe in the corporate world, I felt like I needed to look the part, to be the part. And, you know, luckily, again, I fucking got out of that shit. But, you know, women as a whole, we are more harsh on ourselves. We are more judgmental on ourselves. And unfortunately, we then cast that shit onto other women. And I know that it's kind of like a secret that almost doesn't get spoken about. You know, of course women want to big up other women. Of course women want to be supportive of other women. But it's so hard sometimes to break away from what you've been fucking. It's almost like, you know, what's that joke where when people are in the mall, they're like, yo, there's something in this music that's making me buy shit. Yeah. It's some subliminal message. Because as much as we want to be positive, you know, woman positive, body positive, we're constantly being fed what is considered beautiful. So then when we don't necessarily see that, it's so easy for even a young girl to say something about another girl's appearance. Even with our daughter, she's 8 years old. And I feel like at the beginning of this school year, you remember we were going through this thing of her being like, I'm not sure I want to wear my hair curly. I kind of want to wear it straight.
Yeah.
And I remember me saying to myself, okay, I need to ask her where this is coming from. Is she seeing someone else with this hair? There was a lot of conversation that went behind just this slight little change that she wanted to do.
Where it was coming from.
Yeah.
You know?
And I really wanted her to embrace her natural state, because when I grew up, that was not something that was taught to me. I didn't understand how beautiful my hair was because I was always told to alter it. So it's the same thing when girls are little. Let's say a one girl is, a different complexion or a different body. We're all built very differently. I'm a smaller frame. I have a friend who's just naturally, she's taller. She's a larger frame. We can't look the same.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're being fed constantly this particular type of woman, this woman that wears a size 2 to 4, who has, what is that, like what is that shape? It's a
hourglass shape.
Hourglass shape.
Bottle shape.
Yeah.
Pear shape.
There is the measurement, 24, 36, 36, 24, 36, something like that.
It's in a song for sure that it's not coming to mind. But yeah, there's definitely these standard measurement types.
Yeah. So these are the things that young girls are growing up potentially trying to aspire
38, 24, 47. I think
47 hips would be.
But it's a rap song, so.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe if they're potentially.
Yeah.
They could be.
Yeah.
47 would be, you girl have some hips.
Yeah.
Right?
And which some men prefer.
Yeah, because going back to being primal, you see big hips, those are childbearing, which is funny when I think about it, because primal wise, I'm talking about like caveman time. Cavemen would look at their potential interests as far as who they wanted to have children with, and they would look at the woman's body for health purposes. Mm-hmm. So if she looked healthy,
she had to have some meat on her.
Yeah,
she had
that meant that she could bear children.
Yeah,
where now it's like,
because real talk, like a woman with not a lot of body fat, her body will actually shut down her reproductive system. Yeah. So it's a real thing.
Yeah, you and I got into this.
Yeah, we did.
We got into this discussion mad hard because we were talking about, because me and Evo, we are both on our own personal fitness journeys, and we monitor our body fat. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time telling you my body fat, and you were like, "Really? How is it that?" And I think we were almost half of a difference. So maybe I was like 15% body fat and you were like 8, and you're like, how the hell are you at 15? And I'm like, excuse me, sir, I actually need this body fat for my reproductive system to work.
One year I was able to get really, really, really lean, and like I remember you were like on this journey to lose some body fat. You weren't on a journey to get lean. You were on a journey to lose some body fat, and me not knowing what was a healthy
body fat
for a woman, I automatically assumed that your target goal would have been somewhere around where I was. Yeah. Only because of how lean I was. And I also,
bitch, I'd be dead.
And I also assumed the type of lean that you were looking for. Mm-hmm. I immediately jumped to like the bikini competition lean.
Oh yeah, no.
You know what I'm saying? And then turns out that if you were to ever go that lean, your body would be like, pump the brakes. Yeah. We don't even have enough fat here to feed a child. Yeah. Like, we need to shut the whole reproductive system down.
Yeah, anything below like 14% body fat for a woman is, you can go lower than that. Yeah. You're risking
it's not healthy to maintain.
Yeah, you're risking, because every woman is different. There are some women that maybe can function at that level, but for me, I think anything lower than that, it's not something that I aspire to. But I thought it was so funny because you were like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Because I was happy. I was like, yo, I'm at like 15.
You were like, yeah, I'm getting a 15. And I'm like,
what?
15? I'm like, what are you talking
You're
about?
like, I'm a 7, bro.
Yeah.
Check out these gains, bro.
I'm like I could barely grab the skin on my stomach. Like, I was so I went off. That was just crazy. I really like pushed myself to see like how lean I could get. And I don't think I'll ever do that again.
You know what's really funny is that I have something written here that kind of talks directly to that. So women tend to be more concerned with how their bodies are perceived, right? So that's why we'll be very conscious about the way that we look. Whereas men are more worried about how society will rank them based on their intelligence and their income. So men that have a dad bod, they're not necessarily worried about how people are perceiving their body because they're like, I'm smart, I got money, I don't give a fuck. Because I remember watching, I forget what movie it was, but there was a scene where there was this really large man. I want to say that he was potentially obese, and he was on a date with a girl that was super small framed. And, they look like the odd couple. And she was like feeding him food. It was very sexual. And I was just like, how the fuck does this work? How is it that she potentially has to kill herself to look the way she does?
Yeah.
But this guy can just walk around fucking doing the bare minimum and still pulling these chicks. And it's because of that. Because he probably has money. And maybe he's in some sort of business where he's looked at as intelligent. So then he necessarily doesn't have to worry about his looks because society is not judging him based on that. I think we got into a conversation about this once upon a time with Fat Joe. You remember? And the people came for me because he was in a video looking the way he was, and he had because Fat Joe, I think, is in his 50s, if I'm not mistaken. And he's still, I would say a good amount of weight on him, right?
Yeah, he's still thick.
Yeah. Boy's thick.
Boy's thick.
And in the video,
but he's not as big as he used to be.
Yeah,
he's
for
definitely big. Credit to Fat Joe. He's lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, I'm not trying to discredit,
right.
But he's still larger.
Like, he shouldn't be Fat Joe no more. He should just be like Thick Joe.
So it was like the last video that he put out, right, when he did that remix from DJ Amorphous.
Yeah, DJ Morphous, who got his whole remix stolen by DJ Khaled.
Yeah, let's not get into that.
I'm saying, I'm coming out and saying it.
So in the video, he's like surrounded by like a lot of young women, very, very small framed, skinny, that ideal looking woman. And in the song, he's still talking about how he pulls chicks and shit. And I'm like, this ill-shaped mofo out here talking about how he still pull chicks, doing the bare minimum.
But he got the money. And
now I understand why that happens. I was so pissed off by it because at the same time, Fat Joe is married and he has daughters. And I think part of the reason why I was so pissed off about it is because I don't think that Fat Joe would ever want a man looking at his daughter like that. But that was a whole nother conversation.
But, I want to speak to the other side of that coin. There's something to say to the fact that there are women out there who are more than happy to play the role. Like, they will play that role and feed into that ego and that stereotype of, if you got money, I'm here for you. Just buy me stuff. Just take care of me.
Yeah.
And I'll physically give you what you want,
And you know what?
That vicious cycle needs to end.
I was just, oh my God, you literally just took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I was like, but that's the part of the vicious cycle. So women, when you have women that will live their lives like that, it kind of fucks the women that are trying to like break out of that shit.
The buck starts and stops with the women.
Yeah.
It really does.
When it comes to that.
Yeah, when it comes to that. Because if women didn't respond to it, then it would be powerless.
Correct.
With men. It would have no value. All this money that they would have no value. And then they would just have to find the next best thing that satisfies a woman. Like,
That-
imagine, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
It's
but
okay.
imagine if all women held to a standard that the same way, like a man, like, you know how a lot of, I really hate to say this, but I've just heard it so many times, and so I'm going to go ahead and say it. But I've heard women say on social media many times when being interviewed, what are the qualities that they need, that a man needs to have, and a lot say money.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if all of those women that said money, rather than saying money, they said intelligence. Imagine the intellect that fucking men would start coming with. I tell you, motherfucker, yo, the motherfuckers would be in those books. Like, when I tell you, like, people don't go to the library no more, but if that shit happened back in the day, yo, the library would be the spot. Like, yo, where you going? I'm going to the library. I'll see you there. You're going to get in these books. Because you know why? Well, you know what happens when you get in the books? You get in the pants. So, like, it's just men will do anything when it comes to getting in those pants.
Yo,
I'm sorry to say.
That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, so, shit needs to change. Let's hold these men to a higher standard and start making intellect the primary need. Like, when you, all right, you know what? I mean, listen, money.
Evo, this would take a whole societal shift.
Listen, I'm planting the seed, all right?
I mean, literally, like,
it's got to start somewhere.
We would have to, like, flip society on its head in order for this to take. But there are people putting in the stepping stones, you know?
Yeah.
There are people making the foundation, like this lady who put out that TikTok, because that TikTok went viral, and it's opening a lot of people's eyes as to the way that a woman's body is viewed that has had children.
I'm gonna tell you what, my eyes were even opened with this TikTok and the article that I read. I honestly didn't realize that Dad Bods was something that became a thing to be praised. I didn't realize that all of a sudden men had gained this beauty-like quality for doing something that they weren't even really doing, you know, which was just like not taking care of themselves and gaining weight. And then in the same instance
where we have no control of what's happening
of what's happening, women are watching this in the shadows, that all of a sudden the dad bod is becoming a thing. And like, it's like, hello, like, what the fuck are we?
Yeah,
you know, like,
liver.
What are we, chop liver? Why wasn't the woman bod? Why wasn't the mom bod? Sorry, why wasn't the mom bod created? Why wasn't that being praised? I you know, like, and I kind of felt disgusted.
Yeah.
In a way, I was shocked.
Yeah.
But I was more shocked at myself when I came to the realization of it, knowing that when the movement was happening, I remember it. I remember, like, seeing videos of girls being interviewed on the beach, dad bod or six pack, and like 80% of them were like dad bod, dad bod, dad bod, dad bod. Like, now that I think back at it, like, why weren't men being interviewed this way? Why weren't men being pressured to be like, damn, bro, what about the woman? You know, like, somebody, why was it woman? I honestly feel that if there would have been somebody like forcing the light on women, that shit would have took traction. People would have started jumping on that to support that, to realize that there was an opportunity there, you know, and that shit would have caught traction. And I was even shocked at myself once I came to the realization that, like, that shit happened. And I can't imagine how many women were like, what the fuck? Like, really?
Well, in order for there to be real change in the regard of how a woman's body is viewed, it's going to actually take men and women together. So women are going to have to stop being so judgmental on themselves, first and foremost, and then casting that judgment onto other women. We have to do something within ourselves to change our mindset when it comes to what we think we should look like as a woman. So that's going to start in the home. So, for example, it's going to have to start with me and my daughter. I'm going to have to really teach my daughter to love herself how she is, and to really give her the foundation of really understanding that it's not about what other people think about your appearance. Because if you're constantly seeking other people's approval on your appearance, you're always going to seek that out.
Yeah.
And then you're constantly going to be seeking something. It's almost like a drug. That's literally what happens. You're going to be looking for that high. When someone tells you you look pretty, you have to figure out, that shit internally. And then when it comes to men are gonna have to, same thing, it's gonna have to start in the household. Fathers are gonna have to teach their sons to respect a woman's body, no matter the condition that it's in, whether it's pre-baby or post-baby. And maybe even more so to have some found like deep respect for women who have had children. I think a lot of the times, these boys, they go out in the world and they say these things to other women because they've heard that shit at home. Young boys are hearing their fathers call their mothers cows and, sloppy and, things like that.
Yeah.
So,
and at the same time, she may like display that it's okay, not to make a fuss out of it, not to create an issue, not to make a scene in front of the kids, and kind of like be passive about it.
Yeah.
Which is all that shit. That whole image is just all wrong.
So, it has to start at home, and, fathers and mothers should be teaching their boys to respect women's bodies in so many different facets, because that's a fucking real, that's a big ass conversation. But when it comes to the woman's appearance, especially after she's had children, if you feel good about yourself going on social media or any platform and attacking a woman on her appearance, especially if she's had children, you are fucking this big of a human being. And for people that are listening to us, I'm like holding my fingers together and it's like almost like, the smallest violin. You are the scum of the earth when you do something like that, because that says a lot about you versus the person that you're attacking.
Yeah, I agree.
You agree?
I agree. I'm not, that was just perfectly said. I'm not even going to try to add anything to that. I just agree.
So that actually brings us to the end of our show. I was when I was saying that, I was thinking about there's a show and I can't remember the name of it, when they talk about, and it's never mind. Okay, it's my brain.
I'm not following you.
Sorry. You know what? And once we finish
of course you
filming,
will.
I'll remember
You're
it.
gonna remember,
but
because you always do.
Well, it's because I have no choice not to remember. It's gonna bother me until I figured out what the hell it is that I was trying to say, and that is my message board brain. But I would just like to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and I hope that you have a better understanding of what a dad bod is versus a mom bod, and why you should have respect for both.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to say it more so for the mom bod.
But just know that one of them is actually earned.
Yo. Real talk.
Real talk. All right.
But I just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I had a great time having this conversation with you, even though I didn't have any drink tonight.
That's all right. Well, listen, when the time comes, the drink will be there waiting for you.
So until next Friday, ladies and gentlemen, peace out.